making your first $100 from the newsletter you started, because of course newsletters make so much money. My name is Lauren and I build newsletters and monetize them. And a lot of you have been wondering about, side hustles you can do, maybe something you might be able to take full time, and newsletters have come up multiple times, because like newsletters like the Nate Time Scoop that makes a high six figures every single year, or even newsletters like Morning Brew that make millions of dollars a year. People started getting into the game of newsletters because it essentially is low cost and can have major benefits. So as someone who runs newsletters, who has a local newsletter running right now here in Houston, Texas, and is in the process of further monetizing that newsletter, I want to share with you how to get your first $100 and why that is really important for you, especially if this is your first go around building your own newsletter. First off, if you haven't built your newsletter yet, you still will be able to follow the steps that I'm going to outline here, and things I'm going to talk about, things that are really important. If you've already been running your newsletter, it will not matter so much if it's a local newsletter or if it's newsletter that anybody in the US or in the world can join. This will still be applicable to you, though I might focus a little bit, hyper focus more on the local newsletter, because I have a local newsletter now that we are trying to scale up in ad revenue for that newsletter as of right now. So, one, if you have a newsletter, you will find that some of the greater problems that people tend to have is getting subscribers. After people have figured out how to get subscribers on their newsletter relatively, easily, they find out that it's a little harder to monetize it. So you'll see platforms like Beehive that have built-in ads so that you can actually, if you're sending out enough, you will be able to use those ads in your newsletter. And essentially, as long as your people are clicking, and you will get paid for it. So that's one of the first ways that I monetized the current newsletter here in Houston, was I make sure that was set up because I have that newsletter sitting on Beehive. Now, you don't have to use Beehive. You can use Kit. There are some other great newsletter platforms out there. Kit also has a similar feature as well. So you can choose what you want. This is not about, do Beehive or do Kit or do anybody else. This is just telling you exactly what I'm using right now for that particular newsletter. Not that you necessarily have to use it, right? But the first ways I monetized that newsletter was literally being able to point and click the ads into my newsletter, so that when I had people clicking on it, they would essentially pay me. And while the money isn't great, it's not a whole lot of money. You really need a large volume of subscribers and having relevant ads that you're putting in that newsletter from, let's say, Beehive in this case, in order to get a lot of clicks. So it's not something that you should fully depend on, particularly if you're a local newsletter, because some of the things they have available for ads are not necessarily things that the people on your newsletter will be interested in, okay? So just warning you out the bat for that, right? Now, I have a very niche local newsletter. I specialize in local nerddom. So I have a lot of adult nerds that spend a lot of money every year on going to conventions, things on cosplay, besides the regular things like banking and cars. They are nerds. They like going to Star Wars Celebration. They spend thousands of dollars a year on tabletop games and card game tournaments, on buying computer parts for PC gamers. So I have a very unique set of people who spend a lot in the pop culture fandom space. They read a lot. So I have different unique choices of people who I can outreach to sell ad slots, right? Because essentially for most local newsletters, you guys will be trying to sell ad space in that newsletter, okay? For most of you, that's how you're going to monetize. Outside from that, some of you are going to learn about becoming affiliates. So maybe it's somebody's course, maybe it's somebody's program. You will learn to become affiliates. So if you have a newsletter that's a little bit more business heavy rather than consumer heavy, you might become an affiliate for QuickBooks or affiliate for House Call Pro. So instead of them paying you for an ad slot in your newsletter, they're giving you an affiliate link. And based on the signups and people who maybe go from a sign up to a paid customer, you'll get paid, or they might pay you per sign up, right? It just depends on them. So you could be an affiliate and make good money. It's how a lot of people monetize in the creator economy anyway. So affiliates is a great way to go. You just have to be good at picking the right thing that's right for the crowd of people on your newsletter. And then from there, this is where a lot of people mess up. They mess up because they don't know how to write ads themselves. So they don't know how to sell the click. And if you're running a local newsletter, you are going to need to know how to sell the click. Now, in my case, I am a copywriter. I've been a copywriter for over 15 years. I know how to sell the click, but a lot of people who run these newsletters, I was just at the New Media Summit this year. A lot of them are not copywriters. They don't know how to write an ad for the ad placements that they sell, and they don't know how to write an ad to be a good affiliate. And they suffer from that because they don't make as much money as they potentially could. Not saying you have to be a copywriter. Of course, there are tools out there, whether you want to use Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and say, hey, write an ad for this newsletter. Sure, but unless you know how to prompt it correctly, which is going to take you really knowing the audience of people who are subscribed to your newsletter and knowing some basic principles about marketing and sales to prompt them to write something that's usable, you might get some hits and misses, and that's what happens with a lot of people. But without overwhelming you way too much on this, why $100? Why not $1,000? Why not $2,000? Because for a lot of you, this is going to be the first time where you are doing something on your own that doesn't necessarily have step-by-step instructions, and it's not easy just to get people to say yes. Particularly for those of you who are running local newsletters. When you have a newsletter that is not local, you have the ability to know that people kind of understand a little bit about internet marketing. They understand about digital advertising. So you don't usually have to explain but so much because they have a familiarity with it. When you have a local newsletter, that is not always the case, okay? They don't know what you mean by a click-through rate. They don't know about an open rate. Why is that important? You're talking to a plumber, right? They don't know about that. You know what they understand? Is my phone going to ring? That's what they understand. That's what that type of business person would care about. If you are selling a slot to a med spa, they want to know, well, how many people are going to fill out our form so that my salesperson can call them for an appointment? Or how many people that you send to my website, how many of them are going to buy a package? Those are the things they understand a bit more. Talking about open rates and click-through rates is not something that most local business owners are as sophisticated in because they don't necessarily need to live in that world. So understand when you are trying to get someone to buy an ad slot for you, and that's where most people are going to start from, is selling an ad slot. If you're not using a platform like Beehive that comes with kind of a built-in ad platform inside of it, you are going to be selling an ad slot, a placement. So you being able to describe what the benefit is for that business owner is going to be vitally important in you turning around and getting the cash, right? Getting the money. I say $100 because depending how big your newsletter is, my newsletter locally that I'm running now in Houston is over 4,600 subscribers and growing, right? I spend money on ads to get my subscribers. I'll talk more about that in another video. But when I sell my ad slots, I can only sell it for so much, right? I have a hyper niche newsletter, and yes, they buy the regular things because they're adults, they have children, everything else, but they also buy specialty things like tabletop games and expansions and stuff like that. So based on what my open rates are, how many subscribers I get, what has been the click-through rate historically on a newsletter, all those things, I can only sell those slots generally in a particular range. That's going to be the same for you. You're going to have to determine how much your ad slots are, right? If you look around online, and you'll be all over the place, people sell their stuff for a lot of different price points, right? There are newsletters that are local where they specialize in talking about the tech scene, the startup scene. And those newsletters might be selling ad slots for $2,000 and $3,000, right? But they have the number of subscribers, and two, they're going after a very specific niche that people want to be in front of. So they can sell slots for hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars at a time. And I know people who do that because they have a list of 10, 20,000 people in a starter space in a major city. And so they can command those types of prices. When you're starting out, you may not be there yet. You may not have that particular, niche. It might be a generally local newsletter. And therefore, you selling a roofing company a $3,000 slot may not be doable at $4,000. It is hard enough to get in touch with roofers, let alone you're going to tell them, hey, I need $3,000 for you to feature in my newsletter. I have, 2,000 people in the area, right? That's going to be a hard sell. And I wouldn't suggest you do it like that, particularly if you're not used to people hanging up the phone on you or call it, So I say start at $100. Now, $100 is not what you're charging for the ad. And there's different types of ads that you can create inside of your newsletter. But what your goal should be is to make $100 from your newsletter you can use it by selling ad slots. If you're using, let's say, Beehive, you could say it's a combination of how many people click. Once again, you're not going to get too much out of that if your newsletter is big and the ad extremely relevant, and you selling ads. I suggest you make the first goal with monetizing your newsletter further outside of if you have access to a Beehive ad network platform by selling ad slots. Okay? Your goal is to make $100 from your newsletter selling your first few ad slots. Now, you might sell your ad slots for $20. You might sell it for a whole $100, just depending on how big your newsletter is and what you can convince people to give you money-wise. For my newsletter, we have classified ads. Those are text-only ads, and we have two types. The main type of classified ad in my newsletter, I sell for $65 a pop. Why? Because I have over 4,000 people in my newsletter. We send out twice a week. We have really good open rates and click-through rates. $65 is a fair price for my newsletter at this point. For you, you might have less people or lower open rate, whatever the case may be. 65 might be too much for a text-only ad that's maybe 60 to 100 characters or less, right? For you, it might be $40. Whatever the case may be, your goal is to sell that type of ad or even another standard ad, which is the common text and an image ad, which you should be selling at a higher price. Maybe your text and image ad is going to be $75 or $100. Mine in my newsletter starts at $150. That may not be for you. You might charge more than me. It doesn't matter. Your goal is to make your first $100 from your newsletter selling ad space. That's it. It might take you a few tries. It might take you a few weeks. But if you make it that goal, if you could sell $100 in ads in your local newsletter, and if you could do that consistently, like this month you sold 100, next month you sold 100, next thing you know, you'll be selling 100 week by week, and you'll build that muscle because it's going to be really important for you to do that, especially if you're also growing your newsletter and you're trying to create this semi-passive asset that is bringing money to you. But a lot of people give up because they're always trying to hit $2,000 in ads space sold them off or their newsletter generating that much. Start slow. Start easy. Sell $100 worth of your ad slots. That is your only goal for right now. That's what we're doing with Houston Nerd Nexus. Now, we're already monetized, right? We have the Beehive ad network working on newsletter. People click, so we do get money from that. Not a whole bunch. Our next thing was selling the classified ad slots in our newsletter. So our goal is just to hit $100 for right now, because there's things we're going to learn in the process. I'm going to learn what I need to tweak to attract people. I'm going to learn all the extra questions they're going to ask me so that I can turn around and refine my process so that we can sell $500 worth of ad slots, $1,000 worth of ad slots. So if you're starting your newsletter, or if you have your newsletter already with your subscribers and you're trying to monetize them, remember, your goal is just to sell $100 worth of ad slots in your newsletter. Now, my name is Lauren. I'm the Nerdy Entrepreneur. We'll be talking more about monetizing your newsletters, as well as the journey of further monetizing the one that the local newsletter I'm running now. But we'll also talk about other types of newsletters and other ways to make money, especially if you are a freelancer just trying to get work. I'm gonna show you how a newsletter can help you also do that. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. That helps me out. Do videos like this so that you too can be a nerdy entrepreneur.